And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region on this Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what is provided in this YouTube video, you can go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. with Hawaii and Alaska to the lower left, and then click tabs here for the territories. And if you point and click anywhere on this map, it'll give you a very specific forecast for anywhere in the nation, including any relevant watches, warnings, or advisories. And there's a whole bunch of other information available on this site. Quick check, though, of the continental U.S. Pretty quiet across the lower 48 on this Tuesday afternoon. Of note, warmer air, breezy conditions here across parts of the Northeast. A red flag warning for critical fire weather conditions there in Massachusetts. And then it looks like some cooler temperatures coming in behind a front. But other than that, the real active weather has been here in Alaska. A powerful early season winter storm will slowly be easing here along the west coast and into the interior overnight and through the day on Wednesday. There was quite the bout of high winds, high surf, and coastal flooding. Hardest hit areas, especially along the lower Yukon coast, Scammon Bay, Emonic on up to St. Michael, and also the east side of Norton Sound. Water levels got as high as 13 feet above the normal higher high tide there at Shaktoolik and to the north at Koyuk earlier this morning with the high tide. We still have some winter storm warnings in effect for areas of the interior into early Wednesday morning, but the bulk of the snow it should trend toward lighter tonight into tomorrow. Some areas around Fairbanks picking up 6 to as much as 12 inches of snow in the surrounding hills. Colder, occasionally stormy pattern will continue through the end of this month into early November as the weather systems continue to roll across either the Bering or up out of the Pacific into the Gulf. So Shaktoolik had a peak wind gust of 61 miles an hour this morning after 6 a.m., around time 2 of the higher tide. High water level upwards of 13 feet above the normal higher high tide, and temperature at 37 degrees. Meanwhile, farther inland, there was moderate to periods of heavier snow today there at Denali Park, where winter storm warning is still in effect into tonight with temperature of 30 degrees. But conditions are going to gradually be improving. We still have those winter storm warnings from areas around Fairbanks and in the central Alaska range through early Wednesday morning. These areas in orange and red along the coast are coastal flood warning near and east of Utqiagvik, coastal flood advisories along the Beaufort Sea coast with expected higher than normal water levels there. The real coastal flood warnings, the ones that really panned out, was especially here around Norton Sound down along the Yukon, lower Yukon Delta coastline. These warnings are in effect yet into this evening and again early morning, but conditions are going to be improving. We initially had south winds go southwest. Those winds now are more west to northwest, and those winds are coming down, so that is certainly good news. But there's going to be another potent low that crosses and brings high winds to areas of the eastern Aleutians and especially the southern portion there of the Alaska Peninsula coming up here through the latter midweek, especially into Thursday. So looking at the satellite imagery, we find still some snow too up around the north end of the Panhandle. A winter weather advisory is in effect until 7 p.m. this Tuesday evening for White Pass, 2 to 6 inches of snow in that region. But again, most importantly, we have, you can see the circulation around. This is the mid-upper level feature of the storm, powerful storm that came up across eastern Russia, right there out of Asia, and then came across the Chukchi Sea up along the northwestern coast. And we have another system that's going to be dropping in and working its way quickly across the Bering. Looking at the weather map this afternoon, weak secondary low over the northern Gulf. Often a weather system will induce a secondary low. The main storm surface low is well north of the Arctic coast up there in the Beaufort Sea. And then a trailing front. Here's the next low that's going to be dropping southeastward. It's a rather potent little system. That's just going to reinforce some wind as it comes across the Bering later time into early on Wednesday. And by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon, here is that low. It's going to have some strong winds associated with this front as this low drops southeastward. Have southwest to west winds turning northerly on the backside as we get into Thursday. Still lingering secondary low here on the north central Gulf Coast, but not a very strong system and weakening. Push of colder air lies along the Arctic coast, Brooks Range, pushing toward the Yukon River. This front just kind of washes out, and this just sets the stage for a series of weather systems to continue working in either off the Asian continent and up through the Bering or coming up out of the North Pacific. So by Thursday, that low does have a pretty good wind field around it, so we do expect some stronger winds, gale and storm force winds on the backside of this low, especially as you get just between, say, False Pass, Cold Bay down toward Dutch Harbor on Alaska areas. We'll see very brisk, strong north winds on the backside of that system. And then we're going to wait for another piece of energy to come up out of the North Pacific into the Gulf here at the end of the week, beginning of the weekend. So in the meantime, conditions improving across the interior, snow letting up, not as windy as conditions expected here along the west coast of what we dealt with, but still some patchy areas of light snow showers, some lower ceilings and clouds associated with just the colder air along the coast. So temperatures are going to be in the 35 to 40 degree range here across the Panhandle, and then back to the west. Temperatures may stop just near or above freezing Anchorage Bowl and the Kenai Peninsula, but getting down below freezing where there has been some snow up there toward Talkeetna, Cantwell area in the 20s, lower mid 20s. And then Wednesday afternoon highs, low mid 40s here through the Panhandle, 45-ish around Craig up through Sitka, maybe near 40 Anchorage, in the 30s as you get up into the Susitna Valley and Copper River Basin. And then for Thursday morning with clearer skies, 6 above, forecast for Glen Allen 15 up there toward Talkeetna. Could even be a little colder than that because Talkeetna tends to run cold when you have these clear skies with fresh snow cover. And then here off to the Panhandle, temperatures staying above freezing, generally mid to upper 30s. And temperatures on Thursday, you have to go down into the southern Panhandle, still to find mid 40 readings. Otherwise, highs below freezing, 20s Copper River Basin, and staying likely having to struggle to hit the freezing mark there as you go up the Susitna Valley. Otherwise, still 45-ish there at Kodiak. Now, colder temperatures, single digits, Arctic Village 5 above, lows generally teens and 20s along areas of the central and north, especially coastal areas getting below freezing in the wake of this storm. Winds continuing to come down. Daytime highs, teens along the Brooks Range, maybe 32 Fairbanks, but areas along the Arctic coast, upper 20s to around 32 from Point Hope down to Shishmaref and 30-ish there at Nome. And then with some clearer skies, colder temperatures, single digits above and below zero here across the Brooks Range, north of the Yukon River, and then also creeping upwards into the upper Tanana Valley. You'll likely see some readings at or even a little below zero. Otherwise, everywhere else going up the Yukon River, generally in the teens for lows. And temperatures Thursday afternoon, definitely that early winter feel. We got temperatures staying in the single digits and teens along especially the spine and south slopes of the Brooks Range. 20s for the central, eastern interior, and maybe 30 or so along the Chukchi coast and down along areas of Norton Sound to the lower Yukon Delta, 32 or so around Imanak. And then for Wednesday morning, lows will be getting below freezing, southwest interior, holding in the 40s, low mid 40s along the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. Wednesday afternoon, highs getting above freezing into the mid 30s across the southwest interior, Bethel, Anvik, down along the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians, mid upper 40s. And then Thursday morning lows getting down below freezing into the 20s, a few teens showing up toward McGrath, further upriver toward Galena, Ruby. And then down along the Alaska Peninsula, lows upper 30s to near 40. And high temperatures will begin to cool because you're going to have that low sitting here pulling down strong north winds. So expect temperatures only upper 30s to near 40 at best, lower Alaska Peninsula into the eastern Aleutians, and highs only around approaching the freezing mark in a number of spots across the southwest interior. So a quick check of what the temperature outlook is shaping up to be at the end of the month, start of November. Still what I've been saying, we're looking for temperatures to average below normal, the greater likelihood, higher probability here in northern panhandle. So don't look for any mild temperatures now. It's just sliding toward a colder pattern. And above normal precipitation, especially southern portions of the mainland in through the panhandle. And as I said, we're going to continue to watch these weather systems either come up across the Bering or up out of the North Pacific into the Gulf, and there are potentially a couple that could be some real snowmakers here along areas of the Gulf Coast, especially the coastal mountains. And if any of that moisture can get back inland, there could be a surprise or two at some point, even leading up toward Halloween. So we'll keep a close eye on that as temperatures just gradually cool as we head and slide into winter.